A legal storm is brewing on Capitol Hill. U.S. District Judges James Boasberg and Deborah Boardman both turning down requests to testify at a Senate hearing this week entitled Impeachment, Holding Rogue Judges Accountable. Boasberg, whose series of judgments regarding the Trump administration have ignited a legal firestorm, including his decision to restrict the White House's use of the Alien Enemies Act to deport Venezuelans. There have also been questions about his apparent role in Arctic frost, that FBI investigation that allegedly tracked the private communications and phone calls of nearly a dozen Republican lawmakers. As for Boardman, well, no stranger to controversy after ruling against the administration's effort to restrict birthright citizenship. So the question is, where do things go from here? And we want to discuss all that with another great legal eagle, former Deputy Assistant Attorney General Tom Dupree. Tom, good to have you with us. I don't think I'm breaking any news by saying Judge Boasberg is legal enemy number one in many cases, especially from the Trump administration's perspective. What, if anything, do you make of his refusal to testify?
Well, Kevin, I thought you put it well, that neither of these judges is any stranger to controversy. Yeah. And the fact that both judges have declined to testify before the Senate doesn't surprise me in the least. They were invited to a hearing to testify about their possible impeachment. I can promise you that the last thing in the world they would want to do or have any interest in doing is answering questions under oath from the United States senators. So it doesn't surprise me they took a pass. My guess is that this hearing will still go forward, and it may just be a discussion. Maybe they got other witnesses, or the senators just discuss and look into the substance of the rulings that they're concerned about.
Especially as it relates to Boasberg. Let me share this sound. This is Ron Johnson talking about some of the questionable decisions, not just things that have happened in the past, but that broadly paint his legal judgment, let's just say, in an unfavorable light for many. Listen to this.
What Judge Boasberg did in issuing these non-disclosure orders, I believe, is illegal. So we sent a letter to Judge Boasberg to answer, did he not know about that law? Did Jack Smith not disclose that to him? He's got till December 4th to respond to us. I hope he does.
He says, I hope he does. Listen, this Arctic frost thing is not going away, Tom. It is damning, I think, and that's being generous.
Yeah, and look, I think the way the Senate is going to proceed here is hear from other witnesses. I mean, they may have a chance to talk to Jack Smith. They can talk to other people who were involved in this. I think trying to get a federal judge to come and testify about what went into his decision making is a difficult task. Typically, judges do not go and testify about the substance of their rulings or their reasoning before the Senate. So my guess here, if the Senate wants to look into it, they're going to be looking into other witnesses and other evidence to try to get a better handle on what actually happened here.
Listen, it's one thing to complain about Judge Boasberg. It's another thing to actually act to do something. Let me share his background, and I think it is fairly clear, even to someone who might generally lean left. This is not really, to me, at least as I look at it from a layman's perspective, the actions of someone who is not a partisan. And that's, again, not even talking about Arctic frost. Can a person like this be impeached? And if so, how does that happen?
Yeah, the standard for impeaching a federal judge is the same standard that you would use to impeach a president or other federal officials. You basically need to show bribery, treason, or high crimes and misdemeanors. And if you look back at our nation's history, we have impeached and removed federal judges, but not as many as you might think, a dozen or so. Typically, they would be removed and impeached for things like accepting bribes or failing to pay taxes or something unrelated to the substance of their rulings. Traditionally, the way that we would handle judges who kind of go off their rails and make crazy wrong-headed rulings is by challenging those rulings to the appellate court. And in this case, keep in mind that Judge Boasberg was reversed by the higher courts in this very case. That's typically the way that we would handle situations where you see judges just not fairly applying the law or ruling from partisan motives. You go to the appeals court or even the United States Supreme Court and get those decisions reversed.
Yeah, and that's been happening quite a lot. I think someone shared something with me that said, I think the Trump DOJ is like batting 92% on getting a lot of these crazy rulings reversed. As for Boardman, again, a number of controversies controversies, including, as I share a bit of Boardman's background. These are just some of the rulings against the Trump administration. I want to share this for the viewers at home. Birthright citizenship, DOJ access to so-called private data from agencies, restoring AmeriCorps-funded programs. Again, just to name a few, it's one thing to say that there's judicial tyranny, and some people have made that argument. Others would say, Kevin, they're entitled. Where do you fall on that?
My view is that I think federal judges all have a uniform obligation to apply the law fairly, to interpret our Constitution fairly in the way that they understand it, in good faith, based on what the text of the law, what the text of the Constitution says, regardless of whatever they, the judge, might prefer as a partisan motive or a partisan outcome. I think there are some judges, frankly, that are better at fairly, neutrally applying the law than others. But in the cases where the judges do allow that partisan motive to seep into their rulings, the remedy, as you point out, the administration has made great and successful use of, is you take that ruling to the Court of Appeals and you get it reversed. I think the fact that the administration has had such success at getting those types of rulings reversed, I think illustrates that the system is working, that the appellate courts are mindful of the fact that there are situations where these district judges are not fairly applying the law or the Constitution. And when they see that happening, they immediately reverse it.
Thank goodness for the appeals process, because a lot of these people, Tom, are simply robed activists. There's no other way to look at it. Great to have you with us as always. Appreciate your great knowledge. Tom Dupree joining us this afternoon. Have a good day.